Hello, this is Daniel Mart, and today I'm going to be doing a video, heavily requested video to say the least, especially like the past day. Basically this is going to be a discussion topic for the Scream TV show. If you guys haven't been following up on that, it's already on episode 7. Today or yesterday was the 7th episode. And basically is the discussion topic is who is the killer, who is Ghostface, and yeah. Now I'm gonna split this video up into two parts. The first part you're gonna see is it's basically into two theories. The first one is who is it if it's only one killer, okay? And that's what I'm gonna discuss if there's only one killer in this series, if there's only one, Ghostface, whatever. I'm gonna discuss who it is and why, and who it's not and why. Okay, the second part is gonna be who is it if it's two or more people committing the crimes, committing the killings. And I think that one's a more interesting one. So yeah, but before I begin on all of that, I do want to shout out a few people who gave me the idea. They gave me some ideas for this as well. So yeah, first off, the Mind Commanders. Really cool guy. He's been helping me out with the Scream TV show since episode 1. Yeah, for those who don't know, I don't watch the movies, or I actually haven't watched the movies. So yeah, so he gave me some intel, some info on the TV show as a whole. Really nice guy, and he gave me some pretty interesting theories. So yeah, the Mind Commanders. Next up, we have Genius Video Man. He gave me an interesting theory. Which I may talk about. Which I'm not may talk about. I will talk about. It's interesting. I don't exactly agree with his theory because it just doesn't have enough beef to it, and it's a little bit too contrived and just cliched. But I do like where it's coming from. It's a little bit interesting, but I feel like it's a bit cliched. But still, pretty cool guy, Genius Video Man. Next up, I want to give a shout out to Jake Plowski, another pretty cool guy. Yeah, he gave me an interesting theory, which I'm gonna talk about in my theory of whether there are two or more killers on this. And yeah, I believe that is it for these shoutouts. Those three people. So yeah, the Mind Commanders, Genius Video Man, and Jake Plowski. Plowski, sorry. So yeah, now on to the first part. What if it's only one killer? Who could it be? Now. Okay, so one killer. So yeah, as it's pretty self-explanatory. Who is a killer if it's only one person? So yeah, so in the show up until now, there are, first off, let me explain this. Since episode 1, there has been a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 different characters. 3 of them who have yet to be seen, and I'm excluding the killer because the killer has to be one of these characters. So yeah, basically I'll go over the characters. We have Nina, Tyler, Riley, Rachel, Will, Noah, Jake, Emma, Audrey, Brooke, Piper, Maggie / Daisy, which is Emma's mother, Clark Hudson, Mr. Branson, Quinn Madoxx, which is Brooke's dad and the mayor, Lorraine Brock, which was that sheriff or cop lady we saw in the previous episode, Emma's dad, which is one of the people who we haven't seen, Troy James, which is one of the people we haven't seen, Kieran, and Brandon James, again, one of the people we haven't seen. So that's about 21 people. So yeah. So first off, I'm going to go over the people who I do not think can be the killers. Okay, first off, Nina, Tyler, Riley, Rachel, Will, they can't be the killer because they're dead. Straight up, they are dead. You can't be a killer if you are dead. And remember, there's only one killer. Okay, next up we have Noah. This one's interesting. There's 2 reasons as to why, and the way I'm doing this, I'm giving you guys the most logical reasons, or the main reason as to why he or she cannot be the killer. So next up we have Noah. I don't think he can be the killer because he was FaceTiming Riley while Riley was being died. Also, if you guys look at the sneak peek for next week's episode, it looks like he may be the one who's gonna be getting the axe next week. He may die next week. So yeah. Next up we have Jake. First off, he was with Brooke at the same time that the killer attacked Will and Piper, and also he was stabbed in the most recent episode. So yeah, Emma, straight up, she's a main character. She's the one who's been going through the ringer. She's the main character basically. I mean, I know it's kind of cliche, you know, she's the main character. That's why she can't. No, I mean, legitimately, the killer's been taunting her. She's half the reason as to why the killer's doing this stuff. So yes, now next up we have Audrey. She was talking to, now Audrey can't be the killer because Rachel was talking to Audrey on the phone when Rachel died. So, you know, doesn't really make sense. And again, I'm only going with the one killer theory at the moment. Brooke, I don't think Brooke could be the killer because of two reasons. One, she was expecting Mr. Branson for a little bit of sex during the time of Riley's death. She was at a hotel waiting for sex, basically waiting for cock. While Riley was being killed. Also in the most recent episode, we saw the killer and Brooke in the same shot. Same thing with Noah. We saw Noah and the killer with the same shot. The killer was trying to kill Will, which he succeeded in killing Will. But he was also trying to kill Noah and Brooke, so it doesn't really make sense. Piper's the reporter lady. She's the podcaster lady. She can't be the killer because she was attacked by the killer and Will defended her, and that was in the previous episode. So, you know, it doesn't really make sense. Next up we have Maggie and Daisy. First off, while Riley was being killed, she was in the car with Emma trying to search for Brooke. I believe it was Brooke, but they were searching for someone. So yeah, and also she was eating dinner with Clark and Kieran, while Emma, Noah, Brooke, Will, and Jake were out in the bowling alley in the most recent episode. Same excuse for the sheriff, Clark Hudson. He was eating dinner with Maggie and Daisy and Kieran, while Emma, Noah, Will, Brooke, and Jake were at the bowling alley. And also he was trying to search for the killer, which at the time he believed, we knew it can't be this guy, but he believed it was Tyler at first. We obviously knew that Tyler was already dead since the first episode. So yeah, he was searching for the killer at that point. So yeah, now these are the few people who I think can be the killers. Listen to what I'm saying. Who probably are the killers if it goes by the one killer rule. First off, let's start off with Mr. Branson. He's the teacher basically that had an affair with Brooke. The main reason as to why he could be the killer is because aside from what he does in school, no one knows what he does outside of school. Nobody knows what his schedule is outside of school. I mean, people know he's begging Brooke on the side, but aside from that, not many people know exactly what he does outside of school, or what he did even before he came to school. Also, he had a name change apparently, and he had apparently some kind of malware or whatever on his PC, on his computer, with info of many of the students that go past the typical knowledge, school knowledge, you know, like grades or whatever. It had videos of students and stuff like that. Now, you could say that Nina and Tyler were messing with his computer, which they often probably did, which is kind of confirmed, apparently, from what it seems, that they did use his computer a lot. But, you know, it's an excuse. It's one of those things that's believable, but since we don't know too much about him, it could be debunked because of that reason too. We don't know much about him. Second off, and I think the most reasonable person to commit the murders in either theory, whether it be one person or two people, is Quinn Madoxx, Brooke's dad, and the mayor of the town. First off, he was seen taking a suspicious body-shaped bag out of one of his many cars. Many people believe that to be his wife and Brooke's mom. That's interesting. That's really interesting. It gets more interesting with the two killer theory. He's also been bribed by Will and Jake over the video which we saw in the previous episode, and also to just point it out, Maddox, Quinn Madoxx, the dad of Brooke's dad, was extremely close to the area in which Will and Piper were attacked. I mean, he was literally outside the door. Like, he goes out the door, and the next thing we see is Ghostface, the killer, right behind him, ready to kill Piper and Will in the previous episode, last week's episode. So yeah, next up we have Lorraine Brock. She's the detective from the previous episode, the female one. She's a new character, though she's no longer in the series apparently, so she was only in it for like, she was kind of in and out type of character, only for one episode, or I think 1 or 2 episodes. Yeah, could she be the killer? I mean, she was like a 1 episode character, so you go off on that if you want. That's really a decision on you. So yeah, yeah, whatever. Next up, we have Kieran. Okay, I think this is the most interesting because up until this episode, we really didn't know jack shit about Kieran. Let's be honest. Like, yes, his dad or uncle, or whatever it was, is a head officer, and he's dating Emma for like a couple episodes, but we really didn't know. Here's the main piece of evidence as to why Kieran may be the killer. The second he leaves the house, the killer is already terrorizing everybody at the bowling alley, like straight up. Now it's not like almost immediately, but Kieran leaves. We have about 5 minutes in which nothing's like people are trying to get their way around the bowling alley, and then we see the killer. He's trying to attack Brooke, Will, and Noah, and he's doing that. And then towards the end of the episode, we see the killer, the Ghostface killer. He runs through this back door, and more or less about a minute later, we see Kieran come through not that same door, but come around the same area. So that's why. So yeah, Kieran, pretty interesting there. We don't know much about him. Next up, we have Emma's dad, a character we have yet to see in the series up until next week's episode, from what it seems. Really, the way many people describe him is that after the killings, he banged, he had sex with Daisy and Daisy, or Maggie, whatever you want to call it. Emma's mom. Yeah, Emma's dad had sex with Emma's mom. Obviously, they had Emma, and then he kind of just went insane. So we haven't seen the character yet. So I'm going off on that. So what it is. Next up, we have Troy James. This is Brandon James' older brother, and basically, it may just be because he wants revenge. And also, we did hear a conversation back in episode 2 or episode 3, in which Noah did go and interview Troy James for some kind of project, and that may have triggered psychologically something in Troy to want to commit these murders and have kind of a revenge kind of story of himself. So that'd be interesting. Not the most solid theory for him, but yeah. Now, for the one killer theory, who do I most likely think it could be? Honestly, I think it's either between Quinn Madoxx or Kieran. Quinn Madoxx, I mean, he has a lot of evidence behind him. It goes way more beyond with 2 killers. But I think with Quinn Madoxx, he's the most unknown character, despite the teacher, and despite Kieran, despite all the other unseen characters. I think he's the most mysterious character. Kieran, he has something to hide. He definitely has something to hide. But if I need to put my bets on one person with the one killer theory, it's gonna have to go to Brooke's dad, Quinn Madoxx. Now, up until now, we go to the 2 killer theory. So that means there's 2 or more killer theories. That means two or more people are involved in the killings. Let's check it out. This is where it's gonna get interesting and long. Hello, and now we're at the 3rd part. Yes, I changed my shirt. What you gonna do? JK, but yeah, pajamas. I'm joking now. Kind of pajamas. Was getting a little bit cold, so changed the shirt. So yeah, so now we're at 2 killers. Really cool. This is where we get really cool, really interesting. Now there's 6 characters in which I think just cannot be the killers, regardless of whatever the situation is. Nina, Tyler, Riley, Rachel, and Will. Mostly because they're dead. I know. Yeah, you could argue Will a lot, but he's dead, so yeah. Now the only living character the only currently living character I think who cannot be the killer regardless of anything is Emma. Just because I don't see her character in general just doing anything like this. I feel like she's not innocent, but I feel like she's a bit naive. If you know what I mean. She's not exactly innocent, but she's a little bit too naive. She's a little bit too trusting. I just don't. Her character just doesn't make sense. No character arc. Her character personality wouldn't make sense regardless. Now, as opposed to the previous one, where I had as opposed to the one killer theory, in which I said, these are the characters who can't be it, no matter when. Here are the characters that can be the killer, because of whatever. I do have a few loose cannon characters. Basically, these are characters that I think could be the killer, but at the same time, I don't see them be like. Basically, they're like at a gray area. Like there's not really any evidence that shows that they aren't the killer. But there's not any evidence that shows that they are the killer. So yeah, I mean it's a little bit more difficult with two or more people teaming up and killing. So yeah, so who are these loose cannon characters? Okay, in the loose cannon character section we have Brooke, Piper, Mr. Branson, Maggie/Daisy, Lorraine Brooks, Emma's dad, and Kieran. So you guys may be wondering, what about Noah? What about Audrey? Brooke's dad? What about the sheriff? What about Troy James? What about these characters? That's where it gets interesting. So yeah. Now the first one, this one's very easy, very simple. It's cliched, sure. This one is cliched. I'm not gonna lie, but I felt like I should just include it here, just in case. Who knows? Maybe it turns out being true. Maybe it may be a cliche pairing, but whatever. And we have Sheriff Clark Hudson and Quinn Madoxx. So yeah, basically you have the mayor and the main police officer. The reason I call it cliche is because you have two figures of power, and they have every single ability to cover up. And yeah, I find it cliche. They really have no true motives, to say the least. They have no motives. They really have no evidence behind them, aside from the fact that Quinn Madoxx, the Brooks dad, does act suspicious, and then there was that video in the car, the video and the stuff at the car. Aside from that, there's really nothing else that makes him suspicious, especially with Clark Hudson. Really, what you could say is that, Quinn Madoxx, Brooks' dad, he's doing the murders, and Sheriff Clark Hudson is covering up for him, because he is a police officer. He's able to manipulate evidence and whatever. So yeah, it's cliche, sure, but whatever. Now we get to the three interesting ones. First off, Noah and Troy James. This one's interesting. So you have the brother of a serial killer with the one who knows everything about serial killers. That's gonna be interesting. So yeah. Now first off, it is interesting to note that in the most recent episode, In the Trenches, both Brooke and Jake did suspect Noah of possibly being involved to some degree. Jake told Brooke that, people like him always know the most innocent looking one, the most innocent person usually normally turns out to be the killer. And Brooke also tells him, she tells Noah to his face, how can we trust you? Maybe you're the killer. He's like, he was basically like, I'm right here. How does that make sense? It was kind of funny, but whatever. So yeah, that is interesting to note. Okay, so any other evidence aside from that? Noah, in my opinion, may be the smartest character in this whole series, okay? Because he knows so much about pop culture and whatever. He knows a lot about serial killers and all that. And I feel like, if aside from maybe Audrey, which I'll get to her later as well, I feel like he's the only person in this whole list. Or actually, everybody here has the abilities to manipulate other people. But I think Noah probably has the most manipulative skills next to Audrey, which again I'll get to her later. And I say this because serial killers, they have no emotions and they manipulate people. Now we saw Noah on Riley's smartphone. When Riley was dying, she called up Noah, and he seemed worried. But again, maybe it's just a form of manipulation. The way I see it, Noah is the planner. He plans who's gonna die, and Troy James is the killer. I think he is the killer. So that will make a lot of sense. Now, any motives, any possible motives? Not really. You could argue that Nina, Tyler, and Will, they're kind of assholes to him because they're popular and he's kind of a nerd. So you could argue that. But again, he's a serial killer. They don't typically care for feelings such as that. They're like, okay, who am I gonna kill next? So yeah, yeah. Next up, we have Audrey and Troy James. and this one's similar to Noah in a sense, because they are similar. Like they something I kind of forgot right now, and this one applies to Noah and Troy, and Audrey and Troy. This one applies to both. They both know how on their way around technology. They both know how to use cameras, videos. They know computer programs and softwares. They know how to hack stuff. So yeah, and very fast, back to Noah and Troy James. Very interesting, which I just forgot to mention. If you guys remember that file that he unlocked and he leaked the video of Emma having her first time doing sex, maybe he did that on purpose. He knew what was on the file, so he leaked it on purpose, and nobody would ever suspect, because from everybody else's perspective, he didn't know what was on the file because it was all encrypted. And also, very fast, one more time on Noah and Troy James. He went to the hospital after Audrey and Emma both told him that he shouldn't go to the hospital. So he goes to the hospital. He doesn't care what they say, but maybe it's because he was wondering, maybe they are, maybe they're realizing that maybe the killer or something like that. Maybe they're, they have a lead on me. Need to get there and maybe eliminate them. So yeah, pretty interesting. Now on to Audrey and Troy James. Again, as I said before, they're both really, they know how to work with computers. They know how to manipulate people. So yeah, and again, same situation. Audrey plans, Troy kills. But here's the difference. Audrey has some clear motives. Aside from Riley, she has clear motives to kill Tyler, Nina, Will, and Rachel. Riley's really the only loose cannon there that she really had no reason to kill. Aside from the fun of it, but she had a reason to kill Nina and Tyler because they leaked the video of her making out with Rachel. She overpowered Rachel to such an extent that it's possible that Rachel did something that pissed her off, and we've seen Audrey with her random outbursts, and she could have just the same kill Rachel or have Troy kill Rachel. And then for Will, same situation. He's popular. He doesn't really respect Audrey that much, and Will gets the axe. So yeah. Riley, she's a loose cannon. She's like, I really can't figure out a clear reason as to why she would want to kill Riley. That one's kind of a loose cannon, but the other deaths make sense. Yeah. Also, as I said before, she was talking to Rachel on the phone. Similar to Noah, Riley was talking to Noah on the phone, and then she was killed. Similar situation. Audrey was talking to Rachel on the phone, and maybe she had Troy kill Rachel while that was all happening. And pretty similar to Noah's, but I still think it's pretty interesting. It has a few twists and they're going on, but whatever. Now here's the one which I made up, which is very interesting, very dark, because it's kind of also backstabbish at the same time. We have Quinn Madoxx, which is Brooke's dad, and Jake, which is Brooke's boyfriend. Okay, this one's where it gets interesting. First off, Jake has 2 Ghostface masks. Okay, he also has similar knives to that of what Ghostface used to kill Nina and Riley and attack Will and Piper. Okay. I mean, if you guys saw the knife he had, the huge kitchen knife, it's very similar to the one that Ghostface used to kill Nina and Riley. If you guys paid attention to it. Again, same situation with Quinn Madoxx, with Brooke's dad, the body-shaped bag and whatever. There is a situation with the video, which that's a little bit interesting. So, here's how it goes. They both wanted to kill Will. Jake probably wanted to kill Will a little bit more, if anything, because he feels like Will was abusing him or whatever. Like, he was taking over Jake, I guess. Will was taking over Jake, and to some extent. And here's how it goes. Will, he finds the video first, starts taunting Quinn Madoxx. Both Jake and Maddox now have a reason to want to want to take out Will. And yeah, Jake is helping Will in taking away money from Maddox. Both Maddox and Jake know that, this guy's gonna die pretty soon, so let's just let him have his fun. So yeah, they try to kill him. They stab him in episode 6. Not really a lethal. I mean, they kill him at the end of the last episode, but still, they kill him, play around with him, whatever. Now, here's where it gets really dark and kind of backstabbish. Now, Jake showed the video to Brooke. of, you know, the one of Brooke's dad getting the body bag or whatever and taking it out somewhere. We still don't know what's in that body bag, but it must be pretty important if he doesn't want it leaked out. So Brooke's dad, he's really pissed off. He's really angry. Because he didn't want that video to go public at all, especially to his daughter. So what does he do? He goes after Jake and tries to kill Jake himself. So yeah, and that would be twisted. That would be dark. You know, kind of backstabbish. And yeah, also just some other random evidence. We have Noah, who suspects Jake. Also, I know it does. I mean, this piece of evidence doesn't really make sense anymore, but I wrote it down when I watched the episode. But Jake had enough time to change into the Ghostface suit and try to kill Brooke. I mean, really, that'd be messed up if Maddox tried to kill Brooke. That would be messed up. But again, serial killers don't care for emotions, no matter what. And if he's able to kill his wife, he's able to kill. I mean, to some extent, he's able to kill his daughter. And as I said before, Maddox, he could be so pissed off at Jake for showing Brooke the video that he wants to now kill him. So yeah, that's basically it for all these theories. I think they're all really cool in my opinion. Interesting, cool. Yeah, so yeah, who do you think killed everybody? Who do you think is Ghostface? Who do you think is the killer? Comment that down below. I mean, everybody has their own right to think who they are, who the killer is. Every single theory is interesting. I'll leave all the theories I said down below, right down in the description below, for both the one-person killer and the two-person killer. And yeah, overall, that's basically it for this video. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, and comic book reviews. Comment down below on your thoughts on this video. Who do you think is the killer? Like, do you think it's one person or two people or three people or how many people? Comment all that down below. Let me know who do you think is the killer or killers. Again, comment all that down below. Let me know. And aside from that, that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart signing off.